Unbeknownst to most RPG fans at the time, 1997 saw the release of another Final Fantasy game called Final Fantasy Tactics. Eclipsed by its flagship older brother, the game was lauded by many, but seen by few, until it simply became the stuff of legends and bargain bins. Before you hit bid on eBay though, know that Square Enix is gearing gamers up for a saving throw with Final Fantasy Tactics: The War of the Lions. A new subtitle and a new spread of content put some fight back into this underdog long overdue for a hero's welcome. In this page of Final Fantasy history, players unravel the untold tale of Ramza Beowulf and his involvement in the War of the Lions, a dispute between two dissident factions incited by a race to the crown following the king's death. Ramza once knew life as a noble in a family of lords and knights, but when his power-hungry brothers see the tumultuous political landscape as a chance to seize the crown, his world is changed forever. As the story unfolds, power-hungry siblings become the least of his worries, as a secret plot of demons, saints, and the mystical power of 12 Zodiac Stones surface before the youth's eyes. Intent on restoring order and honor to his name, Ramza picks up the mantle of an unknown mercenary and leads his company into battle, swords raised. The original PlayStation version was blighted by inconsistencies and English quirks that made the story more of a folly than a fable. Tossing the original's lines out the window, Square Enix's localization team went to work on an all-new translation, borrowing style cues from games like Final Fantasy XII and Vagrant Story, resulting in a script with a decidedly Shakespearean flair. The average player might find themselves begging for Cliff's Notes, but discerning bookworms are likely to enjoy the archaic English revisions.
These heads, if aught were in my power to do.
Retooled lines and cleaner writing may seem like insubstantial fixes, but the effect is anything but subtle. Fans who have led Ramza to victory once before may find themselves revisiting his world and coming out with an entirely new experience. With more drama and character than ever before, The War of the Lions proves to be a stellar example of the impact that a port can muster with all the proper tweaks in place.
I am their unwitting puppet. No more!
Ditching the ubiquitous free-roaming aspect of other Final Fantasy games, War of the Lions has players leading Ramza and his band of rogues across an overworld map pocked with waypoints leading the way to various cities and locales. The game's design aspect doesn't receive too much of a facelift here, but a number of interesting new additions throw coals onto the fire. The Tactics campaign was, and still is, a tough one to complete, that often demanded players to level up strategically as they would in the battlefield. The difference is this time that maxing out your characters won't be just for bragging rights. The long-yearned, finally realized multiplayer mode is ready and present, allowing for both co-op mission objective and head-to-head based engagements. The absence of true online connectivity is disappointing, but the local multiplayer is still a more than welcome addition with a number of enticing features. Head-to-head matches allow players to customize the playing field to their liking, from time limits to maps among other options. New battle mechanics like setting and disarming traps and locking swords add a certain wildcard factor that spices up what would otherwise be a fairly conventional PvP experience. On the flip side, players who participate in cooperative missions earn the chance of acquiring special items and equipment not found in the regular single-player campaign. Running parallel to the game's various class and function additions are extra scenarios not found in the original, including playable events with Delita and various encounters with popular Ivalice alumni, including Balthier, everyone's favorite sky pirate from Final Fantasy XII, and Luso, a rambunctious big game hunter and star of the upcoming Final Fantasy Tactics A2. And along with Balthier and Luso's special classes are two more professions tacked onto your roster, Onion and Dark Knight. These bits of bonus content are palpable niceties that add color to the game's incumbent features, but its extensive job system is still the main attraction here. Combining the best of its Final Fantasy pedigree's professions and the tactic-laden mechanics of the Ogre Battle series, War of the Lions grants players the power to piece together their own virtual militias, with a diverse set of options, abilities, and equipment. Even up to now, Final Fantasy Tactics' job classing structure is still one of the best the genre has seen. A feature-rich and flexible system matched only by its equally complex battle engine. Unlike most RPG battles that take place in a vacuum-sealed environment, War of the Lions has players sprawling about on a three-dimensional map where no two battles are alike. Terrain, charge time, and positioning are among the many things to consider in battle here. Elevated land masses and building walls can obscure hidden enemy units, but a judicious flick of the analog nub can rotate the map to reveal them. Powerful spells and abilities are tempered by a brief startup time that can cause the attack to miss completely if not timed correctly. Even where your character is standing in relation to the enemy plays into the equation as well. A brief glance at the list of factors affecting combat can be staggering, but after a couple of battles the essentials sink in. And for a tactical RPG, War of the Lions is actually relatively straightforward. Once you start to understand the method behind the madness, scuffles play out like clockwork, where every unit placement can mean the difference between victory and defeat. The game's vicious AI is often crafty and unrelenting. Enemies will surround you, run away, and gang up on the weakest link in your party. And just when you think you've come up with a viable strategy, varying mission conditions like protecting an escort or being separated from your crew shift your priorities a bit and keep the rules of engagement ever-changing. If you've never played past standard active time battles in RPGs, War of the Lions will put up a hearty challenge with its difficulty and diversity of stratagems. As a port, War of the Lions still bears the same PlayStation-era graphics that it originally shipped with in 1997. The environments still have the same low-res textures and polygon models as it did back then, but well-animated sprites that show a considerable amount of character still work in bringing life to the game's pallid scenes, as well as a new 16:9 ratio giving players a better view of the action. In place of a total graphical upheaval, War of the Lions stages the game's most iconic scenes in all-new cel-shaded animated cutscenes, in a near-rotoscoped look that does character designer Akihiko Yoshida's art style justice. In addition, these scenes feature English voice acting exclusive to the US and European versions. That's on par with what you've heard in Final Fantasy XII.
What then is your end in all of this, Delita?
Slowdown in battle during spells and abilities plagued the original version, and unfortunately, things don't change much here on the PSP. The amount of slowdown varies from forgivable to irksome, and although it's certainly not game-breaking in any sense of the word, it remains as one untouched aspect of the game that hasn't seen an improvement this time around. Final Fantasy Tactics: The War of the Lions is a rare breed. Despite being a veritable grandfather of console RPGs, a galvanized retranslation and timeless gameplay make for a feline that simply refuses to age. If you missed it the first time, don't miss it again. War of the Lions has waged war on portable RPGs, and it's victorious.